social workers have shown a lot of commitment and a lot of creativity and the feeling of being challenged.
Bilang social worker, nakikita ko ng profession na ito, ang kursong ito ay siyang kurso na para sa tao. In other words, para sa human development at social transformation.
Naniniwala ako na ang mga taong tinutulungan, lalo yung mahirap, ay may kakayanang tulungan ang sarili nila. Basta bigyan lang sila ng chance, pagkakataon na umunlad ang sarili nila.
Social work as a profession evolved in response to the demands of the social, political, and economic situations of the country. During the pre-colonial era, social work was not part of Philippine culture. In fact, the terms social work and social worker have no counterpart in indigenous languages. But Filipino ethnic languages are replete with words which express the values of helping and caring, like tulong or help, damay or sympathy, bayanihan or helping one another, and aruga or care. Respect for the dignity of another person is also rooted in the Filipino culture, with words such as kapwa-tao, meaning recognizing the other as the other self. Pre-colonial Philippines is characterized by small communities called barangay, which later evolved as barangay, a society of self-contained communities. With lands and other natural resources being held in common and people considered helping one another as a value, poverty was neither an issue nor social functioning a problem. When the colonizers came and applied the divide and conquer strategy, many indigenous Filipinos lost their lands, the primary source of their livelihood, and became marginalized. Inequality and the rise of the poor and vagrants became evident. Colonization left the ground waiting for a professional helping process. In the face of the growing number of poor people, the missionaries who came with the conquerors conducted charitable activities. Hospitals, orphanages, and settlement houses were established. Many of these are still in existence, but management of the institutions and services offered have changed. Professional social workers are at present integral part of these institutions.
Every child deserves a loving and permanent family. Capsulized into three, our mission goals: family preservation, family reunification, and permanent placement. We need social workers in every service that we provide because we have to improve the social functioning of every client that we have. We provide parent effectiveness service, sessions on empowerment and reaffirmation of paternal abilities. We have daycare. We have a service for home for single mothers. And the social worker will just have to help them love themselves again. Because of that, then they would be able to love their children. And we give them also spiritual counseling, skills development, capital assistance. We have what we call a foster care service. The child would stay with us temporarily, and we work for reunification. However, there are instances that the mother would always say no, especially if the baby is born out of incest or out of rape. So when the child is not reunited, then we go to our third mission. We have to look for a family. We have a law for domestic adoption. That would require that we have to match our Filipino children first to Filipino families. However, if the child is not adopted locally, we can match now the child to a foreign family. If the child is adopted, that means our mission is complete.
Ang Veterans Memorial Medical Center is a hospital for mga veterans of World War II, yung mga USAFE veterans, yung mga recognized guerrillas, retired military officers, yung kanilang legitimate spouses, dependents, children below 18 years old, yung parents who are 60 years old and above. Ang role ng social worker dito to render social services to patients who find difficulty in adjusting to the hospital routine, rules and regulations, kung paano sila mag-cope with personal and family problems which have some bearing on their illness, treatment, discharge, or rehabilitation. Ang isa pa is yung continuing care after, yung continuing treatment after hospitalization. So, pagkatapos dito sa, sa Veterans Hospital, pag na-discharge na sila, we refer them to outside agencies. Merong mga limitations din tayo. Alam niyo sa government hospital, hindi naman abundant yung resources. So, may mga resources na hindi available dito sa amin, nire-refer namin yun sa ibang hospital para doon nakikipag-linkage kami sa ibang hospital para sa ganon matulungan yung aming pasyente.
Social work as a profession in the Philippines flourished right after World War II, the war of the superpowers which made a small strategic country like the Philippines a pawn. The war which damaged the country and its people and eroded the economic resources. It was in this context that social work as a profession became established in the Philippines as the first 7 social workers trained in Western countries formed the Philippine Association of Social Workers Incorporated in 1948. Relief and rehabilitation were the main concerns of social workers in the late 40s until the middle 50s. Social workers were also called to conduct psychosocial trauma intervention for those severely affected by the war. The Philippine School of Social Work was established in 1950. In 1951, 2 schools offered social work and social welfare courses, the University of the Philippines and Centro Escolar University. From relief and rehabilitation, social workers moved to community development and rural reconstruction from the late 50s to the 60s. With this, the first national conference of social work in the Philippines was held with the theme, The Role of Social Work in Community Development.
Ako particularly, ako yung project director. And yet, direkta akong pumunta sa communities para sa training, and then yung pagpuput up ng clinic, and then community health workers organizing. Kami yung nafa-facilitate sa pag-training ng mga community health workers. So itong mga community health workers ang nagiging partner namin sa pagtayo ng mga health programs mismo sa community. Aside from the community health workers, tinititrain kami ng community organizing volunteers. No, kasi sila naman yung nag-prepare sa community. Hindi lang kami nandoon sa office, kundi mismo sa community. No? Leyte and Samar ang target namin ngayon. So, itong mga community health workers, kung meron namang medical mission, sila rin ang tumutulong sa amin. Pag-mobilize sa kanila para yung mga resources within matap din nila para sa matulungan yung mga communities. Hindi lang naman kami nakakatutok sa communities namin. Involved din kami sa pangmalawakang pagkilos. Like ngayon, ang matinding problema sa Leyte, Samar and Leyte, yung pagpapatay ng mga activists, no? Tumutulong kami sa pagsama doon sa mga mass actions.
Reconstruction efforts after the war did not bring much progress. Economic and social inequality worsened because of the import-dependent and export-oriented economic system that government espoused. The situation demanded a well-coordinated and professional delivery of social welfare services. In 1968, the Department of Social Welfare was established. It assumed primary responsibility in providing a comprehensive program of social welfare and employed registered social workers.
The CSWCD is a national steering agency, and therefore we provide social protection. We take care of the development of our people through policies, through programs, services, and development special projects, so that we are able to empower and make sure that our sectors, the sectors that we serve, like children, women, the elderly, the persons with disabilities, the youth, and families in disaster or conflict situations are assisted so that their social functioning can be brought back to normalcy. One big project we have now in the department, and this is a flagship program that we are implementing to alleviate poverty, is our Kalahi Seeds. This is a community-driven development program that services for the 42 poorest provinces in the country. And we, as of now, this is our third year of operation. We have covered more than 1,000 municipalities and many barangays in all of these municipalities. There's a lot of work in the CSWCD. We are here serving the poor, the marginalized, and vulnerable groups and sectors in our country, and we're trying very hard to do as much as we can.
Our mission is to rehabilitate probationers, parolees, and pardonists and promote their development as integral persons by utilizing innovative interventions and techniques which respect the dignity of man. We try to find out whether the problem is within the person or within the situation, or both. We interview the family, the neighbors, the significant others, the barangay officials, etc. And after he is granted probation, we prepare a treatment plan. During supervision, rehabilitation, we meet with them. Under the law, they're supposed to report to us at least once a month. No? And we prepare all sorts of programs that will meet his rehabilitation needs. The main thrusts of our agency right now is threefold. The therapeutic community, modality of treatment. Another one is the restorative justice paradigm of looking at social justice. The other one is the development of volunteer probation aid program. So in therapeutic community, it covers behavioral management tools, intellectual and spiritual aspects, and then vocational and survival aspects, emotional and psychological aspects of therapeutic community. In restorative justice, it's not just the punishment that we look into. We look at who is the victim, how can we restore relationships between the offender and the victim. Is the offender remorseful, penitent of his crime? Is he willing to face the victim? It should be a repair of harm done to the victim.
The marginalized sectors, together with the educated and middle class, organized themselves and clamored for change. Martial law was declared by former President Marcos to quell the intense movements for social change. While many social workers were employed by the government's Ministry of Social Services and Development, other social workers joined social actions and formed community organizations for societal transformation. These social workers lived with the peasants, the fisher folks, the indigenous people, the urban poor, and joined laborers in their struggle for land, government housing, work, and just wages. They used popular education to cultivate analytical thinking and educate poor people of their rights. Social workers themselves were victims of human rights violations under the martial law regime, but their quest for justice, peace, and freedom never waned.
In the intervening years between my graduation and my current work as a professor, I went through a gamut of work as a social worker and as an activist. Most of the work involved organizing in the communities, dealing with the marginalized sectors, particularly the rural population, and women. Type of social work involved organizing in a country which was then under a military dictatorship. And in the process, I was arrested and imprisoned. And the social work profession here in the Philippines as well as abroad mobilized and campaigned for my release. I am thankful to the Philippine Association of Social Workers as well as the International Federation of Social Work for the campaign they did to help in my release. At present, and in the era of globalization, the attacks in the form of cutbacks in social services have had tremendous impact on the resources that are available for the marginalized sectors and even for the public sector, to which I belong. As a professor of women's studies in the University of the Philippines, I belong to one of the 1.4 million public sector employees who have had no salary increase in the past 6 years. And this is one of the advocacy that we promote as part of the union in the university. So the All-UP Workers Union, the All-UP Academic Employees Union work with the unions of the Department of Social Welfare here in the Philippines as well as unions of other government agencies to push for higher budget for social services and an increase in salaries of the public sector workers. Social work cannot be a residual intervention, which is the case in many developed countries. But social work has to grapple with the fact that the marginalized sectors are the majority. Hence, organization, mobilization, and advocacy must be the important and crucial intervention.
In 1986, the People Power Revolution drove the Marcos families and cronies out of government. People Power Revolution opened the democratic space, but the old elites were able to gain back their stronghold in the economic and political processes. Hence, abject poverty continued. During this time, several non-government organizations were established to respond to the various needs of a growing number of clientele, the poor.
Ang Kamalayan Development Foundation, simula noong 1992 bilang isang research project para tuklasin ang child labor dito sa Metro Manila. Pagkatapos ng mga isang taon na pananaliksik, aming discover ang isang tanging klase ng child labor na matatawag natin na is isa sa mga worst forms of child labor sa buong daigdig at maging sa Pilipinas. Ito yung bonded child labor sa mga pabrika. Ngayon, sa harap ng problema ng child labor, ito'y nagtuturo sa amin, itaguyod yung tinatawag na generic o kaya integrative approach ng social work na walang iba kundi ang pagkilos para sa individual o sa hanay ng mga individual, grupo, pamilya, mga komunidad at pakikipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang institusyon sa lipunan at paglahok sa mga pagkilos sa pambansang saklaw at maging sa pandaigdigang saklaw. Ang kamalayan ay nakikipag-ugnayan sa iba't ibang mga organisasyon sa Luzon, Visayas at Mindanao at noong Oktubre, itinatag nito kasama ng mga organisasyon na yon ang isang pambansang koalisyon, the National Coalition Against Child Labor in Commercial Agriculture.
One of my main preoccupation, apart from teaching, is promoting or popularizing microinsurance among the poor. When you say I'm working with microfinance, and even when I was in the stage of organizing communities or people, I've been using all of these interventions. Maybe when I was a direct worker, the main interventions or the main concentrations that I use or techniques that I use in the communities are community organizing, group management, the social administration, concentration or practice is one of the binary things that I have performed up to now. Since then, I'm now in that field of social administration. Now I am involved with a mutual benefit association organized by a National Farmers Federation. It's called the PMBA, or the Pakisama Mutual Benefit Association. And its main program is to implement or to extend social protection to the poor, but more specifically the informal sector. The social protection program comes in the form of microinsurance. The PMBA is involved in another form of microfinancial services, and that is microinsurance. Its major focus is to extend insurance to the poor, because it's the poor who really needs the insurance protection rather than the rich.
The 1990s poverty situation never got better. Armed conflicts erupted time and again. Erratic climate change led to natural disasters that affected many. Human rights abuses were widespread.
Its main goal is to provide rehabilitation for children victims of militarism or human rights violations. Some of them have been or are direct witnesses to the murder of their parents, or to the forcible arrests, or they have been direct victims of bombing, strafing incidents in their communities. The perpetrators are members of the military, either from the Armed Forces of the Philippines or the PNP. Their experiences traumatized them, and so we come in, CRC volunteers and staff come in, and we provide either individual therapy or group therapy. And I provided counseling, casework, I initiated casework conferences. I also participated in our group therapy programs, and especially in our community outreach programs, where we had to go to remote rural areas where militarization is intense. Our process of rehabilitation or therapy have 3 levels. The first level, really just to provide them an opportunity or a venue for them to release whatever emotions, either rage or guilt or just plain grief. In the second level, we try to help them situate their experience in the context of what's happening or what has happened to the community. in the context of what's happening in society. There is repression, there is political repression because of the exploitative and repressive structures present in society.
In search for greener pasture, there was an increased migration within national and across international borders. However, many overseas Filipino workers also became victims of abuses and illegal recruitment. Social workers were instrumental in helping them.
As executive director, I was instrumental in developing some of the programs, particularly in terms of incorporating a gender perspective. So Kanlungan provides direct services to returning migrant workers, also to prospective migrants who encounter problems with recruiters or who are victims of illegal recruitment. And we also organize families of overseas Filipinos. So this program started out as a response to women who were coming home from working abroad with mental health concerns. So it was the community members themselves who approached Kanlungan and requested assistance and through referral to psychiatrists. Eventually, we found out that it would be better for mental health or people with mental health concerns to stay with the families, in the communities, rather than be institutionalized.
Moving from the residual welfare perspective, social workers used various interventions taking into account social justice and empowerment, ethnic sensitivity, and gender equality.
My work involves human rights advocacy using the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women. And for the Philippines, it means that we have to analyze the laws, the policies, as well as the practices in government as well as of non-government organizations to make sure that they are not discriminatory and that they indeed affirm and empower women as actors of development. I work as a national coordinator, so I do project management and facilitate the implementation of projects through various actors. I work with the National Commission on the Role of Filipino Women, that is the National Women's Machinery. I work with women NGOs who do what we call shadow reporting or issue analysis based on the women NGOs' experience so that they can criticize constructively and analyze gaps between policy and practice. And I also work with trainers who capacitate various agencies of government, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. So it's at the macro level, at the national level, but the capacity building that happens there translates into advocacy at the grassroots level.
Today, social workers both in government and non-government agencies are continuously challenged to develop an integrated approach of social interventions in response to the social problems the country is facing, such as globalization, oppression, and repression of civil and political rights. The millennium calls for more challenges to social workers.
Given the realities and the social problems that confronts Philippine society, there are a number of challenges to social work education. Challenges in the sense that we are being tasked to create programs, training programs, as well as formal degree programs that would address the need for our social workers to acquire certain specialized skills. And these are in the areas of disaster management, conflict resolution, as well as on migration issues and concerns. So these new requirements would compel social work education in the Philippines to develop new programs that would capacitate the training and the empowerment of social workers so that they can be more reliant and be depended upon by the government and with the non-government organizations to work with the marginalized and the disadvantaged sectors of our society.
In an unbalanced society such as the Philippines, the social work profession is always bracing itself to work for a new social equilibrium.